Good evening, everyone. It's Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting, coming to you with breaking news. Charles Manson, the famous mass murderer, the famous cult leader who led his family of cult members on two nights in 1969 to murder 7 people at 2 different houses in Los Angeles. He is dead at the age of 83. Manson had been sick for a while. He died of natural causes. He was in prison serving several life sentences for these murders, but he is dead. Charles Manson dead at the age of 83. We wanted to come on and do some live coverage of it for you, and also get your thoughts on the death of Charles Manson. So please, if you'd like to, you can write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this. We'll read a couple of obituaries and get some feedback, see some reaction about Charles Manson's death. But Charles Manson is dead at the age of 83. So, want to just show you this real quick. Here's an example of one of the stories. A lot of obituaries out now about Charles Manson. And according to the New York Daily News, he was serving several life sentences at Corcoran State Prison in California when he fell ill and was moved to a Bakersfield hospital for treatment. Officials at the state's Department of Corrections said he died at 8:13 p.m. That would be Pacific time, so about 2 hours ago he passed away. It's not clear if he passed away in the hospital in Bakersfield. It looks like maybe he passed away at a hospital in Bakersfield. I can't be entirely sure. And this little summary of the murders, the Manson murders, in this article here. So on the night of August 9th, 1969, Manson directed Charles Watson, whom he met through Beach Boys co-founder Dennis Wilson, to take his followers, Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, and Patricia Krenwinkel, to a Tony house in the Benedict Canyon Hills above Sunset Boulevard and slaughter everyone there. And this house this was the first of the 2 houses where the Manson murders happened. It had been owned by a music producer who previously had failed to sign Charles Manson. Now, that person was no longer living there, but Manson sent these people to that house anyway. The Manson family members, they went to the house and they brutally butchered a number of people at that first house, including movie director Roman Polanski's heavily pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, who was 26, along with celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, 35, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, 25, writer, I think I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Wojciech Frykowski, 32, and visiting teen Stephen Parent, 18. Sharon Tate, by the way, begged for her life before she was stabbed 16 times, Atkins recalled later. And this is kind of famous detail about the murder. Atkins used Sharon Tate's blood to scrawl "pig" on the front door before the group fled the scene. That was just the first house. And then I believe was it the next night? Yeah, the next night they went to a second house, and Manson accompanied his followers. He said he wanted the murders done the correct way, and so he showed them how to execute the murders at the second house. And at the second house, which was in Los Feliz, that's how you pronounce it, in LA, in Los Feliz, it was the home of supermarket executive Lino LaBianca and his wife Rosemary, and he ordered the LaBiancas bound with lamp cords and their heads covered with pillowcases before the savage stabbing started. So they were stabbed to death. This couple, this husband and wife, after they'd been bound by lamp cords and had their heads covered with pillowcases on the orders of Charles Manson, who was there. And so they were tried, and there's lots of. I remember watching a documentary, I think last year, about Manson and seeing some of the footage from the trial, which was kind of crazy. I believe some of the defendants were singing during the trial, and some of his supporters came out outside the trial to support him, and. But there was also the point. I want to make this point, which they talk about here, about the race war. So. Prosecutors said Manson and his followers were trying to incite an Armageddon-like race war named after the Beatles song Helter Skelter. To that end, Manson swiped the wallet of Rosemary LaBianca, who's the wife that was murdered on the second night. He swiped her wallet with the intention of planting it in a predominantly black neighborhood after the killings, authorities said. And then the authorities claim that Manson intended that an African-American person would find the wallet, use the credit cards contained therein, and subsequently be blamed for the murders. That would start a race war, and then Manson and his disciples believed the African-American race would prevail in the bloody conflict, but after winning, they would not be able to govern the world. And then the Manson family planned after that to emerge from hiding in the desert to take control of the world. That, according to prosecutors, was Charles Manson's plan for these murders to start a race war. But Charles Manson and a number of his followers ended up getting sentenced to big prison sentences. I'd have to look up to know exactly all the sentences. I don't know if they all got life in prison. But Charles Manson got a number of life sentences in prison, and he was still in prison, and he died tonight. Well, I guess on the East Coast time, it's last night, but at the age of 83 years old. So Charles Manson, and I'd also been reading, in this picture here, he has a swastika on his forehead. He initially, during the trial, he came in one day during his trial with an X carved into his forehead, which hadn't been there before. And then, I don't know, I think it was the next day that some of his followers came in with the X's as well. And then he later changed the X to a swastika on his forehead. See if any of you have written in here. JC writes in, Steve, we are truly draining the swamp now. Matt writes in, he died in my home city. LOL, should I be proud or ashamed? JC, I see you wrote to me about this before. Thank you. I hadn't seen your message until now, JC. Thank you to the moderators in the chat rooms, by the way. I know JC is up with us tonight at this late hour. So thank you, JC. And Guinevere is up. Thank you, Guinevere. And I think, I'm not sure if Common Sense and Glen O are with us on the website. We might have forgotten to post this on the website. I forgot to tell Jake. So I'm messaging Jake right now so he can post it on the website so people there can watch it as well. Okay, that's done. Let me just make sure I don't have any emails here I need to get to. But again, if you have comments on the death of Charles Manson at 83 or comments on the life of Charles Manson, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Not me says the Democratic voter base has taken a huge blow today. I think he's joking. Elizabeth Burwell writes in, good morning, Steve. Good morning, Elizabeth. How are you? She writes, I remember being in elementary school during the early 70s when I heard about Manson. As a child, I feared him like the devil. In subsequent years, I would get apprehensive whenever he was up for parole. I feel a bit of relief tonight. I saw he got turned down for parole 12 different times. Thanks for writing in, Elizabeth, and sharing that. Hey, there's a Twitter Moments now about Charles Manson's death. I wonder. Let's look at let's look at the Twitter moments. So, as they say, he died of natural causes. As head of the so-called Manson family, Manson masterminded a 1969 killing spree at 2 different houses on 2 different nights that took the life of young actress Sharon Tate and 6 other people. So there's a more recent picture of Charles Manson. TMZ was one of the first to report this. Oh, NBC LA wrote, Deborah Tate, the sister of actress Sharon Tate, one of Manson's most famous victims, received a call from Corcoran State Prison telling her Manson died at 8:13 p.m. That's interesting. So I wonder if did they call all the families of the victims? Is that what they did? Oh, another detail that I left out is Charles Manson was originally sentenced to death, but in 1972, there was, I believe, there was a ban, a short-lived ban in the country on the death penalty. And so the sentences were commuted to life in prison. Yeah, so People versus Anderson caused all capital sentences. Now, is People versus Anderson a national case, or was that a California case? I thought there was like a national death penalty ban. Let me look this up. Get the facts straight here. temporary abolition of the death penalty. 1972, the Supreme Court voided 40 death penalty statutes on June 29, 1972, thereby commuting the sentences of 629 death row inmates in the United States and suspending the death penalty because existing statutes were no longer valid. The ruling was that in 1972 was that the Supreme Court held that Georgia's death penalty statute, which gave the jury full discretion in sentencing, could result in arbitrary sentencing. The court maintained the scheme of punishment under the statute was just cruel and unusual. I'd have to read some more about this, but basically there was a national temporary stoppage of the death penalty while after Charles Manson had received the death penalty, so his sentence was commuted to life in prison. Or I guess sentences, because he had multiple sentences of life in prison. JC writes in, drain the swamp, no quarter. JC also says, hey, we just saved taxes thanks to the death of this degenerate POS. Nolan Neal writes in, this freak should have burned in hell long ago. How much did the taxpayers pay to keep him alive due to corrupt liberal ideas? Sad. Liberal ideals, I'm sorry. Trump Rocks USA writes in, Charles Manson was right about Helter Skelter to a degree because of what we see happening out there with all the racial division during the Obama era. He will truly roast in hell as he will keep the fires burning for Satan. You can share your thoughts on the death of Charles Manson if you'd like. Write to me on Twitter @Lookner. A couple more from, I'm looking at the Twitter moments about Charles Manson's death. They have this person, Eric Pape, who is a writer of some sort, and he says, Charles Manson has died, a reminder. Manson was a sort of sect leader and white supremacist who sought to trigger a race war by killing, oh, he's just going over the facts. I thought he was offering an opinion. Paulie Peretti, who's an actor on NCIS, I guess, of some sort, NCIS ABBY, says, Charles Manson just died. Hope families of his victims find peace after that horrific slaughter, and I hope Hollywood doesn't celebrate him. Laura Nelson tweets, the LA Times obituary for Charles Manson, who masterminded a series of gruesome murders that signified to many the symbolic end of the 1960s and the idealism and naivete the decade represented. Oh, I wanted to show you also, Norm MacDonald posted a joking, a friend of mine gave me a heads up about this, that Norm MacDonald posted a joking tweet about this tonight. Comedian Norm MacDonald, which was this. He said, my heart goes out to the family of Mr. Manson at this time. This is a joke. I don't believe he's saying this seriously. Hey, let's see what else I can find on Twitter. Twitter reaction to this. This is interesting. Somebody posted a cover of Life magazine with Charles Manson on it. That is from December 19th, 1969. Oh, I wanted to give you more information about, so that first house where 5 of the 7 murders happened, where he sent his followers to murder whoever was at that house at the time. I wanted to give you a little of the backstory on that. If I can just call it up here. Here we go. So he sends his oops, that didn't work. Hey, what happened? No. Hang on one sec, guys. I got to get this back up here. I had the whole thing nicely set up to show you. Here it is again. Now I'm worried the video is going to autoplay. Here we go. So the Manson murders took place on 2 nights at 1969 at 2 different houses. And on the first night, he sent a bunch of his followers in his family, his cult kind of thing, to go carry out the murders. And they went to this house in Benedict Canyon in LA, in a nice area. And as you can see here, this is from the USA Today article, the house previously belonged to Terry Melcher, a TV and record producer who once declined to sign Manson, an aspiring musician-songwriter, to a contract. Although Melcher no longer lived at the house in late summer 1969, Manson sent his cult followers to the location to kill anyone there. So he seemed in some way to maybe be taking revenge for his not being successful in the entertainment world. But he sent the people to this house where one of the people who rejected him used to live, didn't even currently live. Vika Varkash says he should have been killed a long time ago. He lived a long life thanks to a corrupted justice system. Nolan Neal says, I must have really small hands because I just took a sip out of my cup using both hands. I didn't even notice what I was doing. Trump Rocks USA says California will now open up his cell for tours to recoup some of the money he cost taxpayers over the years. So a number of you seem to be mad that Charles Manson, he was on life. He got a life sentence. So he was in prison since 72, I guess. Well, actually, no, because he was probably in jail awaiting trial and stuff since like 1969. So basically, he's been under, in some sort of prison or jail since 1969, 47 years. And some of you seem upset because you are upset about the expense to keep Mr. Manson alive, you're saying. What was I going to show you? I wanted to show you something. And now I can't remember. Cassandra Fairbanks posted what she thought were the most recent photos of Charles Manson, but she's not sure. But those are some apparently more recent photos of Charles Manson. Now, what is this footage of? Somebody posted this, and it looks like maybe from a parole hearing or something. It's Charles Manson like dancing around. Is it a parole hearing? I gotta see this. Now, the person like put stuff. Oops. Oh, hold on a second. I didn't know that was gonna play. I gotta turn the volume off. There, that's better. Now, I don't know if this is fake. It looks like it might be real. And given that Manson was prone to kind of odd behavior, this could be real. I don't know. I'd have to find out more about this. But somebody just posted this on Twitter, so I don't know. Yeah, so somebody else posted this GIF too. I guess this is a well-known GIF. I don't know the context of it, though. So again, Charles Manson dead at the age of 83 tonight. He died in California. He was apparently in a Bakersfield hospital. He's been in prison, but they transferred him in the hospital because he fell ill recently, although I did read he was in bad health for a little while. At this point, we're taking your comments, so give a shout if you have any comments on the death of Charles Manson at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. I Heart Trump in America says, finally this SOB is dead. Good riddance, you Nazi A. That's from I Heart Trump in America. Adria Warren says, search a recording he did titled "Oh Garbage Dump." He really wanted to be a rock star. There's a history that will take you a week to learn about this guy. Fascinating. P.S. You should block your trolls. They're mean. So, yeah, I wish I knew, I've seen stuff about Manson in the past, but I know there's a lot out there about him, and I am not familiar with his story. I mean, I know the basics of the murders and stuff, but yeah, apparently there's a lot out there, certainly a lot of literature and stuff about him. See, I bet if we search Amazon, we can find tons of books about Charles Manson. Let's see. For the fun of it, let's do that. Just as a test. So we go to Amazon, okay. We go to Charles Manson. Books, all these books. The Family, Charles Manson Now. Yeah, so there's a lot out there about him. Free Peter D. At the Citizen Joe, I'll say that. At the Citizen Joe says, how do you see this playing out on corporate media like Vox.com or MSNBC or Fox News? I'm curious to know how they will spin admiration for the man. I can't imagine that if you watch mainstream media, you're going to see admiration for Charles Manson. That's at least my thought. I haven't been watching the coverage if they're covering it. Nolan Neal says, I believe the dancing was from an interview he did with a news organization a few years ago. Interesting. I'm going to Google that too. Harshtag writes in, Charles Manson is finally on fire for Jesus. Thank you for reporting on this. Thanks for writing in. Okay, let's see. I'm going to Google Charles Manson dancing and see if I can find anything more about that dancing video. I can see the video, but I'm trying to find out when it happened. Ooh, is this it? I got it. I found the story of that dancing video. So the video I'm talking about, hold on, I'll show you that first, is I saw some people posting this. This GIF that people are posting. And I was like, is that from a parole hearing? But one of our viewers said, I think it's from a media interview. So I found something about this. And it says, where is it? Here we go. I found it. After a booming, almost sexually aggressive chat with Diane Sawyer in 1994, I guess that's where he did it. It says the dance is the big set piece in so many of his on-camera appearances. It's the dance more even than words that he believes can best communicate his truth, feelings, thoughts, and ideas. This is from an article in Rolling Stone. So I think, here it is also. 2 minutes later, he's on his feet doing the dragon dance kung fu thing he historically reserves for when the TV cameras are turned on. He did it for Charlie Rose in 1986, Penny Daniels in 1987, and Geraldo Rivera in 1988. These were the golden years of his midlife media exposures. His midlife media exposure. Okay, so we got a little explanation about that video there. Wonderful. Dingle says, I believe Manson has spent around 61 of his 83 years in prison. Yeah, so I was reading about his childhood earlier. Let's talk a little bit about his childhood and how he grew up and some of his past history. And I will direct us to, so there's something about it in the New York Daily News article right here. Manson was born to an unwed teen mother in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1934, an unwed teen mother. His mother was an alcoholic prostitute who sold him once for a pitcher of beer to a childless waitress, according to the book Manson in His Own Words. He was shipped off to a boys' school at one point, but later ran away and ended up living on the streets, supporting himself with petty crime. He married a waitress in 1955 and moved to California in a stolen car. They had a son together but broke up while Manson was back in jail. A subsequent marriage to a prostitute Manson was pimping also ended up in divorce. Now, I read in a different article about him how much time he was in prison. Is it this one here? Here we go. No, that's not it. Here, is it this? Is this the article that said how long he'd been in prison exactly? Hang on, I'm going to find it for you because that's a good question. I think I read he was in prison for a number of years. Here we go. Manson recalled a dysfunctional childhood in which his mother once hit a man with a bottle, then grabbed her son and fled for Indiana. A drifter in and out of jail and reform school for crimes such as theft and check forgery, Manson eventually made his way to the West Coast, where he served 10 years in Washington State Prison for pimping and passing stolen checks. So even before the murders, Manson had served 10 years in Washington State Prison for pimping and passing stolen checks. After his release from Washington prison, he drifted south to California, attracting scores of followers, mostly dropouts and misfits on the streets of San Francisco. He eventually settled down with a hardcore group of followers, mostly young girls, at a deserted ranch in the San Fernando Valley, where he held court with a mix of drugs, group sex, and homegrown prophecies, portraying himself as Jesus Christ. Also, this is from the USA Today article. They talk about his two sons. Over the years, Manson fathered at least two sons, including Charles Mills Manson Jr., who killed himself with a shotgun on a desolate road in Colorado in 1993. The younger Manson son, Jason Freeman, who changed his name to avoid the family curse of being named Manson, said he believed his brother couldn't live down to who his father was. So apparently maybe his younger son, Jason Freeman, is he still alive, it looks like? I believe he is. Anyways. If you have comments on the death of Charles Manson, dead at the age of 83, let me know. Write to me on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. Chris Peters sent a little meme, I guess you could call it. I'll show you about this. Here's what Chris Peters had to say. There you go. Trump Rocks USA says, I think Manson had a bunch of kids scattered around. Nobody knows who they are. Trump Rocks USA says some woman was going to marry Manson a few years ago, but either they stopped it or the woman backed out, but she was serious about tying the knot with her. I think she was 26 years old. Let me see if I can get that detail up here for you. I read that before. Here we go. From the USA Today article. In 2014, Manson obtained a marriage license to wed Afton Elaine Burton, a 26-year-old fan. But the license later expired without the pair marrying. I'm not sure why. Manson, all right, so he did obtain a wedding license, a marriage license to marry a 26-year-old girl in 2014, but it never happened. AJ Bart writes, I am happy, it is a good thing. Brian N. says, sick how he became a celebrity from the Helter Skelter movie made in the 70s. I want to look that up. Helter Skelter is a 1976 television film based on the 1974 book by prosecutor Victor Bugliosi and Kurt Gentry about the Manson murders, apparently. It aired over 2 nights. In some countries, it was shown in theaters based on the murders committed by the Manson family. I've never seen Helter Skelter. But Brian N., you say you're sick about how he became a celebrity from the Helter Skelter movie. Now, he was well known before that. I don't know enough, and was not really old enough then to know how much more famous this made him. But I don't doubt you. And it was a best-selling book it was based on, so people, read that book and saw this movie. Trump Rocks USA says, like the Shawshank Redemption, Manson basically told them to stamp their Form Sonny and took the opportunity to put on a little show for them at parole hearings where a joke he knew he would... he says the parole hearings were a joke, he knew he would die there. Weeaboo says, a bright light has gone out in the world today. I think Weeaboo might be joking. I'm not sure, though. Billy Harris says, do you know if he had a will and how much was he worth? I don't know. Those are good questions. Does he have funds? Because if he had money, wouldn't he be like sued in civil suits by the families of the people who he and his followers killed? Now here's an article. That's Tea Party Action. I saw a different one from here. CBS News says, how much have taxpayers spent to keep Charles Manson in prison? I don't know if they have a number here. Let's see. He's been denied parole 12 times. So even if Manson had been a routine prisoner, they say, even if he had been a routine prisoner, he would have cost taxpayers nearly $2 million. But during his life in jail, he's been far from a model inmate. So if you want to read more about they're trying to figure out how much it costs to keep him in jail, you can go to this article. How much have taxpayers spent to keep Charles Manson in prison, which a number of you were writing me about this very topic. I got a little distracted. I was asked, how much is he worth? Let's see. Celebrity net worth. Now they say 400,000. Why are they saying this? Why is celebrity net worth saying this about Charles Manson? According to a son that was fathered through a rape in 1967, Charles Manson has a fortune of several thousand to $100,000 stashed away. Manson supposedly earned the fortune by selling paintings, t-shirts, photos, interviews, and more through various websites that he operates. Manson cannot directly access or benefit from the money. His son claims that the woman who married the convicted murderer in November 2014, well, he didn't get married in 2014. He was going to. He got a license, but he didn't get married. Was doing it just to access his hidden fortune. I can't speak to the accuracy of this. I would think if he had any kind of significant money, he could have been sued by the people whose families he and his followers murdered. So I can't say for sure though. So this is what Celebrity Net Worth said. Buy it or don't buy it as you will. It's an interesting question though. And does Charles Manson have a will? That was another question. I don't see anything about Charles Manson, whether he had a will or not. Let's see here. Trump Rocks USA says, my mother had picked up the book Helter Skelter when I was very young. Big yellow paperback book. I ended up reading it vaguely, remember the hearings on TV, black and white TV back then. I remember black and white TV. B. Dig writes in that the 24-year-old who Manson they were maybe going to get married back in 2014. B. Dig says she wanted to profit off his corpse, sell tickets to go see it. He broke it off because he believed he was immortal. Interesting. George Monceau says, I met the guy who gave Manson his infamous swastika tattoo when I was 6 years old. Rest in peace, Charlie. I can't tell if that's serious or not when you say I'd rest in peace, Charlie. Let me see about... Here we go. Thanks for the heads up about this story. Charles Manson wedding off after it emerges that fiancée Afton Elaine Burton just wanted his corpse for display. This is from 2015 in The Independent, and it says she apparently hoped a tourist attraction would make a lot of money. According to journalist Daniel Simone, 27-year-old Afton Elaine Burton was hoping she would gain possession of Manson's corpse through the marriage so she and a couple friends could put it on display in a glass case in LA. They apparently thought the Lenin's tomb-esque attraction would draw a huge number of visitors and make them a lot of money. I bet it would have drawn a fair number of visitors. But Manson, when he was 80, apparently got wind of the plan and now no longer wants to marry Burton. This journalist claims he finally realized he's been played for a fool. The tourist attraction was also something of a non-starter because Manson believes he is immortal. Well, that doesn't mean it's a non-starter unless he was actually immortal. But it says he feels he will never die, this journalist said. Therefore, he feels it's a stupid idea to begin with. Perhaps Manson had the last laugh, though. Simone claims he was always cagey about marriage and might have been stringing Burton and her friends along with the prospect of a wedding as they continued to bring him toiletries and other items. Interesting story there. That's from The Independent back in 2015, February 9th. We are covering the death of Charles Manson live. I think I missed a donation. Somebody made a donation before and I missed it. I'm so sorry. Thank you for donating. We are viewer supported, so donations are what keeps us on the air. If you want to donate, you can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the dollar sign, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. So I really apologize because I noticed somebody donated and I was going to get to it and I totally forgot. So I'm a bad person for doing that because I want to give a shout out to the donors. If you want to know when we come on the air with live streams, subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notifications bell so you get notified whenever we come on the air with these streams. Also, we really like when you like our videos on YouTube and share them on Facebook because that lets the world, more people know about Right Side Broadcasting and spreads the word. So if you like the video, feel free to like it on YouTube and share it on Facebook. Garrett writes in, did other inmates ever get the chance to beat Manson up? An interesting question to me, Garrett, is how did the other inmates look on Manson? Did they hate him? Was he seen as a celebrity in prison? Was there some of both? I don't know. It's a good question. W. Adam Smythe says he never killed anyone and is evil and did nearly 50 years, yet OJ damn near cut off Nicole's head and walked and is out after committing another crime. Now, as to whether he killed someone, it sort of depends on your definition of killed. He ordered all the people killed to be killed. So while he didn't physically do it, I believe, he did order all the killings and he was at the house on the second night. But you're upset that O.J. Simpson is free, it sounds like. Well, so thank you for writing in, W. Adam Smythe. Dingle says, I'm listening to a Willie Nelson cover, Nightlife. Manson saying he and his cult were depraved, but also interesting. I can't play that on the air, however, because YouTube, when you play copyrighted music, they get very, very, very mad. For understandable reasons. Logan David writes in, had to walk by that house in Laurel Canyon, Hollywood one night. Gave me the heebie-jeebies. Interesting. I will, when I was living in LA a couple years ago, I actually lived kind of just a couple blocks away down the street from the O.J. Murders house condo. And I did a couple times, because it was so close to me, walk by there. And it's just, I remember I saw a documentary about the O.J. Murders on TV. I think it was right when ESPN was showing that 30 for 30 multi-part documentary about the O.J. murders, which was actually very, very good. And then it was very weird to walk over to the house and just know, this is where it happened, whatever happened there. They changed the house a little bit where the O.J. murders happened. It's still there, the building's still there, but they changed the entrance. The entrance is not at the same place and stuff, but it's still there. Lindsay Burns says, who will really miss this grub? Lindsay says, hey, Steve, I don't have Twitter or Facebook. How can I contribute? Cheers, Lindsay. It's very nice of you to ask. Just go on the web to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. You can donate there. JC says, to all the trolls acting and saying they love Charles Manson, and all I have to say is karma drain the swamp and if I offend you. So I think, JC, there might be some people joking around and saying I love Manson just to mess with the chat or whatever. But thank you, JC, for moderating tonight, and Guinevere too. And I think maybe if we're up on the website yet, Common Sense and Gleno. So please don't troll the chat room. George Monceau. George Monceau says, you met the person. You're serious about rest in peace, Charlie, but you also said you met the person who gave Manson his infamous swastika tattoo at Vacaville State Hospital in California. Hey, let's see if there's anything else on Twitter about this right now. See, there's like memes about some people saying RIP. So like this person posted this meme that said, opening up Twitter and finding out Charles Manson died, and then seeing people saying RIP. So people are now tweeting out about the phenomenon of some people saying RIP. See, here's another tweet about people saying RIP. There's actually a lot of tweets about this phenomenon right now. Look at the cover of the New York Post. New York Post posts this. I'm going to retweet this. That is the cover of today's New York Post. Make room, Satan. Can't get it's too big. I can't get the whole thing in. But there you go. See, here's another tweet about people saying R.I.P. Charles Manson. See, at this point, maybe some people are tweeting it seriously and other people are like just jumping on board as a joke, so it's really hard to tell. But apparently it's happening a ton because there's all these people tweeting about it. Here's another one. Look. It's like, it must be happening a lot. And this person posted, please retweet for victims of Charles Manson. They are the ones who should be remembered and mourned on the occasion of Charles Manson's death. And they posted a picture of all the victims. Saw an interesting quote. Let's see if I can find this for you. Can I find it here? No, I can't find that article anymore. I don't think. Let me try one more thing. Hey, if you have comments on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner. I saw a quote from someone before who argued that Manson wasn't. Here we go. This is from the USA Today article. Jeff Gwynne, author of The Life and Times of Charles Manson, said his 2-year research into Manson's background, including interviews with his relatives, debunks any notion of Manson as mystical or a magical figure. He's the quote I want to get is where he claims that he's not insane. Here it is. He's a gifted psychopath who's a talented liar who's lied just about everything. This guy told USA Today in 2013. I recognize Manson as an intelligent man, Gwynne said. He's uneducated, but he's not stupid. But from his childhood, he's been a violent con artist. That has never changed. But I do not consider him in any way insane, which makes what he did even more horrifying. So this author thinks that Manson is not insane. Link says, I wonder if some people may confuse him for Marilyn Manson. You're saying that's why they're writing R.I.P.? Let's see. I can't show that YouTube clip, W. Adam Smythe, because you're not allowed to like take YouTube clips and show them on other YouTube broadcasts. They don't like that. You know, copyright stuff and all that. Trump Rocks USA says, Manson fire emoticons will not rest in peace. He will be shoveling hot coals from day one in hell. Those fires will be very hot for him. At NeoLibbot sent me this tweet from somebody who thinks that some of these people retweeting tweeting RIP Charles Manson don't even know what they're tweeting. From Brosty says this. Now, I don't know if the people tweeting it don't know what they're tweeting. Jenny Ann says, how many of the cult members are still in jail and or alive, and have any of them been paroled? Let's see if I can get this up on the screen for you. Let's see. Manson family is his cult. That's too much to wade through. Let me try to find a simpler. Here's one. Who are they and where are they now? I hope this is an article, not a video. Here we go. Okay, Patricia Krenwinkel is serving life with parole. She's been denied parole 13 times. She was convicted of 7 murders, all 7 murders. Susan Atkins is still in prison. Leslie Van Houten is still in prison. Parole has been recommended for her. It's still waiting for approval by Governor Jerry Brown. Seenders donated $5 and said Bernie Sanders 2020. We do appreciate the donation, Seenders. Thank you so much. Charles Tex Wilson is still in prison. He has married, fathered 4 children, and divorced while serving out his sentence. Linda Kasabian. She was charged with all 7 murders, but was granted immunity for her testimony in the killings. She became the star witness. She stays out of the spotlight and has sat for interviews, but with her image blurred or disguised. So she's been out the whole time. Steve Clem Morgan was present during the August 9th murders, but remained in the car. But he was convicted of a murder of a stuntman later. He was paroled in 1985. He is the only Manson follower involved with murder to ever be paroled, but he wasn't convicted for the Manson murders. So Bruce Davis was convicted for killing Gary Hinman, Manson's former music teacher, in July 1969, and another person in August 1969. He was not involved in the Tate LaBianca murders. He is currently in prison. He was recommended for parole 4 times, but was blocked by California governors. He got another recommendation this year. He's waiting for Governor Jerry Brown's response. There's this guy, Bobby Busalale, was also convicted for murdering Gary Hinman and is also still in prison. Squeaky Fromme wasn't involved in any of the 1969 murders, but she was convicted of the 1975 attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford. She pointed a pistol at Gerald Ford in close range in front of the Capitol in Sacramento, but the gun did not go off. She was sentenced to life in prison. She was released on parole in 2009 at the age of 60 after serving 34 years and reportedly lives in New York. And the last family member, Mary Brunner, she was Manson's first follower. Let's see. She was never convicted of any murder. She reportedly participated in the murder of Gary Hinman. But she was involved in an armed robbery in 1971. She served nearly 7 years in jail. I didn't know about that Gary Hinman murder. It was like his former music teacher they murdered, some of his followers. Gary Hinman was held hostage in his own home by 3 of Manson's followers when he refused to give the group money they thought he had. Oh, was Gary Hinman before? I'm so confused now. Gary Hinman was murdered July 27th, 1969. And the Manson murders at the two at the house were July and August 1969. The Gary Hinman murder was around the same time as that. Okay. I need to read up on the Gary Hinman murder. I don't know anything about that. Okay. B. Dig says, Squeaky Fromme is the only Manson family member given parole. As far as I know, she was the one who tried to kill Gerald Ford in 1975. Yes, we just got to that. Thank you, B. Dig. True Brit says, Susan Atkins died a few years ago. Did it say it in this article? Yeah, no, oh, yes. Oh, did I miss it? It says, I thought I said this. Maybe I missed it. She was the longest serving woman in the California prison system. Oh, maybe I missed that. She did die. Okay, so Susan Atkins died in custody. Thank you, True Brit. Joel Kimball says, I know a bit more than most about Manson. Most don't know the Jim Jones connection, but yeah, Manson was part of trying to start a race war along with Jones. Just one point people should explore when looking at current affairs. Trump Rocks USA says Leslie Van Houten was just granted parole. She was recommended parole according to this article, but it's waiting for approval by Jerry Brown. Did it happen in the last few days, you're saying? This says granted parole, but it doesn't say that. Well, let's see. 3 days ago, she earned parole. Let's see. Well, it got recommended. No, Governor Brown still hasn't decided on whether to grant her parole, according to this article. W. Adam Smythe says, Polanski is a pedophile who ran a cocaine ring. Jay Sebring's beauty parlor was a front for drugs. Leno and Rosemary LaBianca had mob ties. Ever think that drug dealing played a part in this? Let's see here. Joel Kimball says Manson and Ford Operation Dormouse. I have to look that up. JC writes in on one of our moderators, ha 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 ha, apparently Trolls lost an important icon tonight. Burn in hell, Manson, and Trolls can follow his ass straight to jail. Straight to hell, I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to wrap up this stream now because it's getting a little late and I need to travel tomorrow. I'm traveling for the holiday, but I will be able to stream and cover the news. Tomorrow I'll be a little out of commission's wrong. I won't be out of commission, but I will be a little unavailable for a fair part of the day because I'll be traveling. So I apologize for that. But once I get to where I'm going, I will then be able to stream and do news broadcasts. So I apologize. I feel like I'm seeing a little issue with the screen back here. I'll have to take a look at that later. But anyways, see right there, right there. There's a little funkiness going on there with the green screen. I'll have to look at that. Anyways. But we will keep covering breaking news all week for you. And if you want to know when we're coming on the air, subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notifications bell when you subscribe so you get notified. And about whenever we come on the air at all hours covering breaking news. You can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting, on Twitter at RSB Network. I am posting breaking news on Twitter all the time. My Twitter is at Lookner. So if you like breaking news, you can follow me at Lookner. Thank you to those who donated very much. We are viewer supported. We rely on your donations to stay on the air. If you want to support Right Side, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the little dollar sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Thank you so much to JC Guinevere and all the other moderators for moderating the chat and dealing with some trolls apparently tonight. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who wrote in your comments and shared your views on this story. True Brit says, have a safe trip, Steve. Thanks again. Thank you, True Brit. Trump Rocks USA says he will probably not let Van Houten out. She's the one who is got parole recommended, right? Leslie Van Houten. Trump Rocks USA says he probably will not let her out. After all, it is Jerry Brown, but she does have a better chance than she ever did. Okay. People saying thanks in the chat room. Thank you to all. Thank you, Madeline Shockley. Dashika Porter. Who else is in there? Troop Number, Light Switch. Scapegoat. Seanders. Believe It. James Hinojosa. Metal Goddess Slayer. Starry Night. Bearcat Fierce. Thank you all for saying thanks. Gosh, looks like it was kind of getting crazy a little bit there in the chat room tonight. Gen X, thank you for subscribing to us on Right Side Broadcasting. I know it's Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Christ-like GF. That's what I'll say for your name. Alex Collette, thank you. Arboyd, thank you. He died of natural causes, in case you didn't see the beginning of the stream. If you missed the beginning of the stream, you can go back and watch it on YouTube. It'll be on our YouTube page. You can just go back and watch it. Check the whole thing. Oh, now everybody's saying hi. Andrew Ayala, thanks for watching. Top Rock. Arboyd, thank you. Okay, we are wrapping it up now. I got to go finish packing. We got to all your messages, so we did that. Thank you all for writing in. And again, Charles Manson, dead at the age of 83. If you missed the details, go back and watch the start of the stream. We went over some of the details then. We read through an obituary or two. We looked at some tweets, so you can find that all in the stream. But for now, I am Steve Lookner. This is Right Side Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us for this breaking news coverage. We will see you soon with more news. But until then, have a great night.